So I would start with you, Hussein. Like, I just wanted to talk about, like, surely at a certain point in your life, childhood, early teenhood, something like that, you must have become aware of the fact that this is a thing people do in Britain.
Yeah. So when I was younger, obviously, like, I had heard about it from like school friends of mine who they had like a different term for it, and I'm not sure what it was, but it was basically just like, I heard a story from a school friend of mine who could have just been bullshitting because, that's what kids do. But his story was that there was a park where, like a big park where at nighttime, it would open to people who were dogging, and basically like couples from like around this area of Dartford would kind of travel to this park in their cars and watch two people have sex on top of a car while all the other cars were like in circles, like surrounded by circles, right? So like it was almost kind of just like watching theater or whatever. Then that story,
British equivalent of a drive-in movie.
I was gonna say it's a drive-in movie, but you just watch someone have like weird sex in their car.
You watch people having like, you watch kind of like two old people having sex.
Just like lumpy people just blasting.
Then that story expanded to like everyone had sex in their cars in like so it was like basically like a dogging orgy. Then it was there were only a few cars and it was in the middle of the woods. So like the story changed over time, but the basic idea was that like people would go in their cars and like watch people fuck in other cars. It was kind of something that I thought was like a little bit weird and gross, but like, kind of funny at the same time. I didn't really think too much about it. A few years ago, I went for a run by my parents' house in Kent, and I went down this road which leads to like a country lane, and it's usually it's kind of like quite a desolate lane, which means that it's like fairly decent to run in the sense of like no car, like you're not really passing cars very much. As you kind of go down the road and you head towards the park, you have to like cross one of those fences. So like when you go hiking, you have to like climb over a fence and then go to whatever like woodlands area.
Like a stile.
Yes, yeah. And it was at one of these stiles that I saw a car with like wrappers around it, which were like condom wrappers. And I wasn't.
You meant like a bunch of rappers standing around. They come with an entourage to go dogging.
And I wasn't sure what it was. I was walking past, and I was like a little bit curious why this car was like parked opposite the stile. And then I saw two people naked sleeping there, and like they woke up
sleeping.
Well, they were kind of like resting, but they were both naked. And then obviously they saw me like walk past. And the guy just started shouting at me. He was just like, "Why are you here? Get out, stop looking," etc. I was like, and it was so strange. And I just kind of like was a little bit scared. So I ran back because I was like, I'm not kind of sure what I saw. And like, I was just thinking about it more. And then I kind of realized like, oh, like maybe it's because this road is so desolate and so isolated that like it's become a hotspot for dogging. And then the second time I remember was about a year ago when I was driving through the beautiful London borough of Bexley. I had to go pick up something, and I went to go park in this car park because I didn't have to like pay any like parking fee or anything. And it's about like maybe it was like quite like. It was like only about like 11 or something. It wasn't like super late. And I think I was just like going to pick up like takeaway or whatever. And I saw like a bunch of cars in this car park. I saw like, I heard like a bunch of noise, like, just lots of, those very kind of acute English sounds. I'm like, Milo, you must know them. It's like, they don't really mean anything. They're kind of like, like just these kind of like, just these kind of like weird moans.
Yeah, it's British culture.
Yeah. Just these kind of weird moans that like, don't really mean anything. They're kind of the things that like white van guys shout at you when like you're walking down the street.
It's not even be like, hey.
Yeah, like eventually they become words, but like as they're driving past at like 50, 60 miles an hour, all you can hear is like, there's like, oh, all right, okay. Sure, why not? And I kind of just went a bit closer just to see what was up, and then I kind of saw two people fucking in their car. Like a guy sitting down and a woman kind of like riding him while a bunch of these guys like were watching. And I kind of just was a little bit shell shocked. And then I just like went back, got my food and like just pretend it didn't happen. But it's still like kind of burned in my memory. And this car that they were fucking in was like, it was it wasn't a Land Rover Discovery, but it was kind of it looked like something similar. It was like a very kind of like car you drive if you live in the suburbs in Kent and you want to like bully people on the road.
Well, I mean, you need something sizable if you're going to dog in it. You can't be dogging in a Vauxhall Corsa.
It was just like a very weird thing because like this was like a really kind of like ugly parking lot, and there's like a Morrison, there's like a small Morrison's, there's like a Turkish butcher's nearby. Which is kind of like an old, and there's a car garage because there's always a car garage in these places.
Of course.
So it's
where eggs Baz works.
Right. So yeah, exactly. Where like where a mechanic selling eggs works. So it was just like this very weird and kind of, again, like when I was watching this documentary, I was just sort of like, well, I don't understand how people would kind of get turned on in these settings, because even the kind of aesthetics of the surrounding area are just so bleak and grim that like I don't even feel like, I feel depressed when I walk through these places. I don't understand how you could get horny in them.
Well, I mean, I was thinking about this in the United States, that like when we think of people fucking in their cars, it's the default sort of assumption. I mean, obviously there's exceptions to this, but like when I think of this, it's sort of like, oh, you know, like horny teenagers, like high schoolers on a date or something like that. Like, and like I said, obviously there are huge penalties for it, but it's more sort of like people who are unable to find privacy or time to do this anywhere else. And you hear stories about adults, like people in like parking lot or parking garages and stuff like that, you know, getting caught fucking and stuff like that. But by and large, I would say the concept of sort of lover's lane kind of thing, people go to like to park and make out or fuck or whatever, like that's like a young people thing. Yeah. Whereas it seems like emphatically this,
hey, why don't we have sex British style?
we're gonna park the cars like we're driving on the left side of the road, and then we're gonna fuck. That's doing it British style.
Go dogging.
Yeah. It seems like this is
me governor.
This is not the purview of young people. This is the purview of far older people.
Yeah, who like most of whom like have houses where if they could just invite people over to watch them fuck. Like,
and a lot of them were just like having sex with like their own wife while just like some guys watched or whatever. It was like.
Well, I'm just laughing too that it's like maybe this is an expression of British class anxiety, that like it wouldn't be proper to invite strangers over to see how fucked up your house is, and so like you're embarrassed, like you haven't replaced the wallpaper. So like, I'm just gonna fuck in the woods and avoid that. It's somehow less awkward to fuck in the woods than it is to invite people over, because then they might judge you for like what brand of tea you have.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I actually think that's kind of true. I do think that there's like a lot of like suburban British people who like really don't want people coming in, they don't want people coming into their houses because of like the fear of judgment over like what kind of furniture they've bought.
I've got some interesting quotes here from Wikipedia. First of all, I've actually got a bit of an origin story of why it's called dogging. So according to the Sunday Herald of Scotland, the term dogging originated in the early 1970s to describe men who spied on couples having sex outdoors. These men would dog the couple's every move and watch them. Or some people claim an alternative etymology is that it comes from dog walking. So people would just walk their dog, and then that's even worse. Don't involve a dog in this. Don't get a fucking the idea of a Labrador watching people do this is somehow just makes it worse.
I had a friend who once dated a girl, and every time they had sex, like the dog would come in and watch. And if the dog wasn't in, it would just like howl and bark and like scratch at the door. Because the dog had such kind of like affinity with like the owner, that like he really struggled to be out of like the owner's sight.
The dog just wants to be there being like, yeah, get it, kid.
So the dog would just sit in the corner like and not kind of say anything, but would just like intently watch like the fucking take place. And like,
thanks for clarifying that the dog didn't say anything.
No, like
if he watched Rid of the Dog was like, jolly good show.
Yeah. No, I mean like it's like
a nice arse laugh.
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, you would kind of like you would sort of wonder like whether it would like bark or like, you know, jump on the bed or whatever, but apparently it just sat very intently, but it would like not take its eyes off the fucking. And this like my friend like dated this girl for a few months, and I think they broke up over this because she eventually chose the dog over him.
Look, I mean, Hussein, I will leave it to the judgment of the people gathered today if we really want to go down the road of taking a declarative statement on this. But it is a thing that I've just said sometimes in passing as a joke, but maybe it's true. White women just want to fuck their dogs.
I think so. I do. I think there's some truth in it.
That's finally what gets us cancelled.
And I think white guys also want to do the same thing.
Well, I think the white guys. Well, I mean, it's weird for me to talk about white as if I'm not a white guy. So I'll put it this way. I feel like maybe it's more like there's a certain kind of guy who's just like wants the dog to be impressed by how well he has sex. It's like, well, the dog can fuck however he wants to fuck. So like he probably is judging me if I'm not very, very forcefully getting it. So, he wants the approval of the dog. The dog be like, I admire the way you fuck.